Looks like everybody cleared out. All right.
How's everybody doing out there? Long day, but good day. We are concluding this, well, except for the cocktails
What chair
afterwards.
is this? Oh, man.
Scott, you got to get the chairs.
Yeah.
This is the last group following this. Cocktails outside. I'm sure we're all excited for that also. It's been a great day. I know we've all really enjoyed and learned a lot from the groups today. Hopefully we'll have a little of that going on right now.
Maybe very little.
We're going to try.
Possibly.
We have to close today, Steve Cohen. Steve was born and raised on Long Island, went to Wharton, had an extraordinary career in investing, as many people know. This being an Invest in Sports panel, that has some relevance. He started SAC, his own firm, in '92, then went into Point72, his current firm. But he's always been a lifelong Met fan, all the way through in all these years. In just a little bit, I want to tell you about Steve and his wife, Alex. In 2001, they got really heavily involved in philanthropy, primarily health and children. And in 2015, they started the Cohen Veterans Network to enhance the mental health and quality of life for veterans and their families. And they've done an amazing job with all of those people. He bought the Mets in, yes. He bought the Mets in 2020. If you folks all remember, we were going through a bit of a pandemic then. And Steve kept his eye on the ball the entire time through 2020 and finally closed on the deal. After decades of extraordinary success in investing, philanthropy, one of the greatest art collections in the world, today he's best known to Met fans as Uncle Stevie. Ladies and gentlemen, my pleasure to introduce Stephen A. Cohen.
All right. Thanks, Marc. I was hoping you'd go another 28 minutes and then, and then we wouldn't have to, anyway, but.
So Steve, you've now owned the Mets for about 3 years.
Yes.
What's the most surprising thing that you'd say about owning the Mets that you've learned in these 3 years?
Yeah, I think, it's been 3 years and it's a lot more complex than you can imagine. I mean, when you're on a team, you got ticketing, you got hospitality, you've got security, you've got facilities, and then on the baseball side, obviously all the different departments in baseball. And so first, teams are generally small businesses. Revenues are typically not in the billions, but it's still very complex and a lot of moving parts. And they all need to work well together, and getting people to collaborate and getting people, across the organization talking to each other is a challenge.
So the complexity.
Yeah.
Why did you buy the Mets?
I wasn't sure if I wanted to do it. And then, I decided that, I felt like this was like an unpolished gem. And if I could turn this sucker around, it would be really cool. Now, I haven't turned, I've had one good season. This year didn't really pan out the way we had hoped. And but it's still brick by brick. And there's a lot of good stuff going on underneath. And, building the infrastructure, building the farm system. There's a lot of good things going on I think will pay off down the road.
With everything that's happened and the year of success and the year of disappointment, would you do it again?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, what I do for a living, you're a hedge fund manager. It doesn't mean much to people. But if you're the owner of a sports team, just people care, And so it's been transformational for me and my family. And it's been fun dealing, interacting with the fans and developing a relationship with them. And people finding out who I really am, okay, not what they've, perceptions or whatever the case may be.
Yep.
And so it's been transformational.
You told me a story once when you'd go out to dinner in the Hamptons, and people used to come up to you and talk to you about investing and companies and all that. But that changed after you bought the Mets, didn't it?
Yeah, nobody cares about that. I mean, you know, they want to talk about the Mets, okay? And you know, the way I look at it is, you know, I'm a figurehead. I mean, I'm the owner. I could be anybody. There's an owner. It could be me or somebody else. But the owner and the team means so much to the fans. And so, you know, I'll take a selfie with anybody. I answer emails. I answered an email today, and they go, "Who's this?" Okay, and it was like Steve Cohen, and they're like, "Get out of here," you know, like, you know. But I mean, but it's these interactions that keep you in touch with sort of what they're thinking, and it means a lot to them. And if I can do something like that, why not? You know, it's not a big deal. It makes their day, makes them happy, and I'm happy to do it.
Awesome. We've heard a lot today about investors in the sports industry, in the sports as an asset class. Didn't used to be that we'd have investors that were institutional, that were sovereign wealth funds, that were pension funds and things like that. You straddle both.
Yeah.
You're, you know, in the investment community, and you own a sports team. Why do you think that has changed?
Well, you know, I mean, I've been around investments to be around long enough to know that people tend to be trend followers. And so if something is done well, they want to be part of it. I bet you if asset values were weak, they'd probably be less interested. And so there's a little bit of trend following going on. And it's fun, right? I mean, you know, you can be involved in a business that has a lot of psychic enjoyment, and yet, you know, hopefully, you know, your asset goes up in value over time. And so, you know, it's kind of it's unusual to be involved in something that gives you that type of psychic enjoyment, and yet it's still a reasonable investment.
Do you plan on expanding your sports investments?
Well, I bought a team in the Tiger League, which is, you know, speculative. It's still early as far as we don't, you know, hopefully we think it's going to work, but who knows? But I got to get the Mets right. If, you know, once I get the Mets right and get the model down, then I can think about doing something else. But, you know, it takes a lot. At least for me, I mean, I'm so involved in this thing. I mean, I got this other job, you know, like I'm still got a hedge fund, you know, and so I don't have a ton of time, and so maybe down the road, but I got to get this right, and I haven't gotten it right yet.
Yep. You're in the New York market. The New York press is known for being rather brutal. How's that gone?
You know, I totally disagree with that. I mean, if you want brutal, deal with the financial press, okay? They are brutal, okay? I mean, the sports, I think these sports writers are not bad at all, okay? And actually, I think they softball a lot of things. And so I kind of disagree with that. I don't think it's bad, but I come from a different context, so you know, I come from other worlds. So.
When you know.
Now, when they rip me tonight, yeah. I might think differently.
But. The Yankees, Crosstown Rivals. How do you get along with the Yankees? How do you view them as a crosstown?
You know something? I've gotten to know Hal. We've had meals together. Really enjoy his company. Randy's terrific. And, you know, my view is I'm not competing against the Yankees. I mean, I'm competing against lots of entertainment properties. There's lots of alternatives, you know, that our fans can spend their time doing. Right. And so I don't worry about the Crosstown Yankees. You know, I mean, you know, I think they've built an incredible franchise. They've done a lot of things they've done really well, and certainly something that, you know, hopefully I can emulate.
You're doing a lot at Citi Field. There's a lot going on.
There's nothing going on. The only thing you can do at Citi Field is get your hubcap changed. Okay. Okay. Or maybe get back the catalytic converter that somehow. Okay. There's nothing. Okay. But.
Well, let me say you're involved in a lot of plans to do more things at Citi Field.
Okay. Well, listen, you know, the way we describe it is it's 50 acres of cement, and, you know, it's just the parking lot, right? And so how do we reimagine the area that, around the ballpark, just like other clubs have. And, everybody knows there's a gaming licenses out there that are being bid out by New York. And, so we're thinking about what we're going to do and how we're going to, the plans that we're thinking about and, talking to the community, taking their input. And we've done so many sessions, talking to community, asking what they want. But here's an opportunity, the fans want something to do before the game, after the game. And so there's an opportunity to do something really incredible. And I've seen some of the plans, and, they're evolving. But I tell you, I'm excited, okay? This is going to be incredible. And so I'm looking forward to the moment when we can talk about them when we finish our plans. And, I look forward to that, and hopefully we'll see what happens.
It's a pretty incredible location. Airport right there, the highways right there, the connection to the Bronx and Connecticut.
Yeah, you got rail, you've got highway, intersection of major highways. You've got ferries that could come by water, right? And the airports are just, close proximity. Yep. So it's really amazing that this tract of land and the whole area has existed for all these years and really hasn't been developed to the extent that it could have.
Right.
And so I view this as like an amazing opportunity to do something special for Queens, for our fans in New York.
You recently toured the U.S. Open site, which is right next to Citi Field, and you've seen how they use that. How did that impress you?
Yeah, listen, they, it's amazing what they do. They put up in 2 weeks, and it's really a sort of a festival type approach. And so you can imagine what's possible. And if we can win the ability to build the integrated resort, as we call it, and having the ballpark there, and then having soccer next door that, at some point probably get built, and you can imagine this being a destination, yep. and a destination not just for New Yorkers but tourists. They want to come out and see this. So I'm even thinking about how to reimagine the ballpark, okay, and how to think about what else can we do? Obviously baseball is front and center, but we have this opportunity where there'll be maybe, hundreds of thousands of people coming through this area, and how do I get them to come to my facility? And so I'm rethinking that, and that's to be determined, and we'll see how that goes. A lot of that will be dependent on if we can win the integrated resort. But if we can, I will be thinking about what else I can do at Citi Field.
Awesome. You've also made some major improvements in Citi Field in the short time you've owned the team. That scoreboard is amazing.
First, I was funny. I was talking to Lindor, and he was saying that he had to keep his skin a lot healthier because you can see everything on the board. So. Actually, he had elbow surgery yesterday, so just bone spurs. So he's going to be fine. So we've done some investing in ballparks and trying to create a fan experience that people are excited by. I have tons of ideas that I want to implement, and it's just a question of listen, you can't spend an unlimited amount of money, so you got a budget, and also, dealing with the underinvestment that I had to deal with coming in.
Right.
And so, I call it the money pit. Okay.
Did somebody told me that some players were playing video games on the scoreboard?
Yes. Yes. That is true. Which actually gave me an idea about how to use the facility to have people actually use the scoreboard when we're not there, for events and things, for video game and that type of stuff. So it's an example of trying to use the facility in different ways.
That'd be wild. David Blitzer earlier today talked about esports and how we thought that was a big part of that's underinvested in.
100%. Yeah. That's what my kids' generation. What they do and how they spend their time, and so. Just because I don't do it doesn't mean that isn't something that, we could do at Citi Field in some way. So I'm thinking about that.
Love all these ideas. David Stern, he was the longtime commissioner of the NBA, passed away a few years ago, used to talk about sports without borders. That was what he wanted to see happen.
Yeah.
How do you see that with baseball, international globalization, and the Mets?
Well, I mean, we know MLB is thinking about international, right? Thinking about how to expand people's knowledge of the game and interest in the game. The Mets are going to be playing in London next year, which actually dovetails well because my wife's birthday, 60th, is coming up, and so she wants to be in Europe, so that works out perfectly. Okay, And I asked her, I said, well, she was going to do a week, and I said, well, I got to go to the Mets game, and so that was a tough negotiation, but I was able to pull it off. So, but yeah, MLB is spending a lot of time. I mean, obviously we have the WBC, which has been that was a huge hit, right? I mean, I was in Tokyo for the Tokyo Italy game, and which was fascinating. I'd never seen Japanese baseball before, and how the fans comport themselves in the field, and it was really I mean, it was incredible, right? It was a totally different experience. And so there's an opportunity here, and I know baseball is thinking about it, how to expand the interest, not just domestically, but worldwide.
Right.
And wherever I go, there are Met fans everywhere, whether stadiums in the U.S. or overseas. I was in Copenhagen, and someone was taking me around, as a guide, diehard Mets fan. So when you talk about a sport without borders, I don't want to be constrained by the four walls of my stadium. So how do I connect with my fans? How do I connect with fans that are interested in the Mets in ways using technology, right? I mean, maybe they can't come to the stadium, but with the advent of AI and generative AI and the amount of content that you're going to be able to create, and the ability to get that to your fans. My view is, there's lots of different ways to find that fan and connect with that fan. And I want to do it not just in the U.S., but globally. And so those are my goals. Whether I pull it off is another story. But I don't like the feeling of being constrained by the four walls.
Right. You're also doing something with at Citi Field, bringing Dominican teams to the stadium this year, aren't you?
Yeah, I mean, there's an example of using the facility and then the opportunity to bring baseball, after, typically World Series and extend the interest of baseball fans in New York. And so, listen, I mean, it's, baseball is popular in a lot of places, and listen, it's going to be hard to compete with, soccer and, global soccer and that type of stuff. But, there's no question that there's, in certain parts of the world, real interest in baseball.
One of the things that we see at Citi Field with Mets games and at Yankee Stadium for Yankee games also, see a lot of Latin fans at the games, a lot of Dominican fans at the games. It ties into the city and the diversity of the city and the population base and serving them.
100%. I mean, I've actually instructed my marketing team to, make sure we are marketing to, all different populations within New York, right? I mean, they're fans, they enjoy baseball. The players are Latin to begin with, right, a lot of them. And so there's a real opportunity to tap into that interest.
You're a little bit of an out-of-the-box team owner in your first 3 years.
I am concerned. I haven't bothered anybody. They love me. They're crazy about me.
All right. Wait. I have to take some exception with that.
What?
Twitter.
Yeah.
What was up with that? You were all over Twitter for a year.
Yeah. That was a pandemic thing. I was literally sitting there like there was nothing to do, right? So you're just sitting around. I'm sitting there with my wife, watching TV, and all of a sudden I said, I'm going to tweet, and I turned to her and I said, I think this is funny. I'm going to tweet this out. And so, listen, I had nothing to do, and it was kind of fun. And X is a tough place to connect with fans. It's pretty controversial and hostile, and especially if your team's not doing well, So it makes it tough to make that a constant ability to have a conversation without people throwing it right back at you. So I can think of more gentler places to connect.
It's a little less Twitter then.
A little less Twitter, yeah. I mean, I'll still do it every once in a while, but not a lot.
And anybody who's been to a ball game with you, a Mets game, you spend half the time taking selfies with fans that come up to you.
Yeah.
That's unusual for a team owner to do, especially on game day.
But something, I don't know if that's true. I mean, I saw Middleton throwing baseballs to the fans at his game. And so, it doesn't take much just to find a way to connect with your fans and actually make them think, you're listening to them. They just want to know you care.
Right.
And I don't think it takes that much, and I think it's a lesson. Some owners are more comfortable than others in doing it. So find your way to let your fans know you're thinking about them, right? And that, you care about their experience.
That's, like I said, out of the box. But it's,
I don't know if it's out of the box, but to me, it's common sense.
And it does.
Okay.
It absolutely does. Yeah. But then a little more unusual in the ownership ranks, you spent a lot of money on ball players this offseason.
Did I?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's like every day in the papers, it may have just been Scott Boras putting out rumors, but every day you were signing somebody else to $1 billion contract.
No. See, now you're embellishing. Yeah, I mean, I was trying to, I had a strategy of bridging. Our farm system was weak, and I wanted to be competitive, and so, and frankly, we had a lot of players that were at the end of their contracts too at the same time. So it was really a confluence of events where I felt like I had to. I'm a new owner. I wanted to lead. In the best with the best, building the best team I could. Mm-hmm. And frankly, listen, free agency is a tough place to build a great team. I mean, you're fighting the aging curve. These are potentially long-term contracts where if you get it wrong, you don't have many options. And so it's really, it's not the preferred way to do it. And I think what we've seen in baseball and probably other sports, that the best way to do it is to build it through player development, your farm system. And that's really the preferred way, which is interesting because that's the exact way I built Point 72. At Point 72, we have development programs. We have an academy where kids come in out of college. We get like 22,000 applicants for 40 jobs. I actually instituted the academy at the Mets too, to create the next great executives at the Mets. And so hiring, bringing in, people who are, and once again, we're getting a ton of applicants. So we're able to pick the best and brightest. And so, so I like developing. That's what my preference would be. Mm-hmm. And so, acknowledging that what I was doing was bridging to something else.
Is that kind of why you did what you did at the trade deadline?
Yeah, I mean, that was a hard decision. Actually, it wasn't. Something I thought it was a clear decision. I was patient. I was waiting for the team to demonstrate some consistency. Mm-hmm. We'd win 3 or 4 in a row, then we'd immediately lose 3 in a row. We never really got it going. Mm-hmm. I think at that particular time, our odds were like 15% to get into the playoffs. And we had to jump like 6 teams to get there. Those are not good odds. And so, I was faced with an aging team. And so now the beauty was, what I didn't know was what we would get in return for the players we were thinking about trading. And we were lucky enough, I think, that we were able to get, really good prospects. Now, prospects to prospects, no guarantee they're going to work out. But it did accomplish my goal of building a farm system. and moving that forward. And at the same time, they won too. I mean, look what Justin Verlander's done for Houston. He's pitched great.
Yep.
So there's an example where I was looking intermediate long term. They were thinking short term, right? How could they get into the playoffs and advance into the playoffs? And so I would argue, I was arbitraging different time frames. Mm-hmm. And, I bet you if you call Jim Crane today, he's thrilled and I'm thrilled. That's great.
Yep. Worked for both teams.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you took a while to hire people, to hire your president of baseball operations at the Mets. You just announced David Stearns. What went into that, and where do you see are you still looking for a head of business operations for the Mets?
Yeah, I was pretty patient. I mean, I wasn't going to, for that head role, I wasn't going to, compromise on my standards. And so I was really patient. And I think that was the right move. I know it's the right move. And I'm doing the same thing with my business side president on the business ops. When you don't, if you make a rash decision or you make a decision because you're not patient, a lot of times you can make mistakes and set the organization back for a while. And so I can't tell you how many interviews I've had for a CEO role. But I'm hopeful, usually I like everyone the first time. It's the second interview where I start to really dislike them, okay? So now, so far, I have met somebody, I've gotten through 2 interviews and I still like them. So, maybe I'll solve that one, but actually we'll find out. Maybe it'll be the 3rd one where I start to dislike them.
That's where they'll fail. But you've been spending time with the team yourself. You've been working, you're in the office there, you have the meetings once a week.
Yep.
Do you feel that this has put you in a position to understand the whole operation better and to then be able to hire and structure it?
Yeah, I'll say it again, there's a lot of nuance to this business. It's not as simple as it looks. So, I think there was a positive in not finding that CEO, me learning the business. I went to dinner with Francisco the night before he had his surgery, and I felt like, at least from a baseball side, I could hang with him pretty good.
Yep.
Okay, so that means I've learned a lot.
Yep.
And so, those are the markers that tell you that you're on the right track.
That's another thing you do. You spend time getting to know your players and their families.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, I know a lot of owners don't like doing that because they don't want to get too close because they may have to trade them and that type of stuff. And I kind of look at it differently. I look at it like, they're people, they're working for me. I want to get to know them. It's possible, you're going to trade them or not renew a contract. But I think I want them to be ambassadors for me, to go out, in baseball and go, that was a great experience. Mm-hmm. So for me, I think it just makes sense to have that relationship and treat them like the way I would want to be treated.
Nice. I want to close with a topic. We've had a lot of discussion today about sports, its role in society, its investability, the globalization. Sports seems to be a nexus. Culture, politics, business. Where do you see that, and how significant do you see sports as part of our society, and where do you see the future?
Yeah. Think about what sport does. It brings people of totally different political views, totally different, brought up differently, mm-hmm. together.
Yep.
In a common experience, and how powerful that is. That's why sport is sport. That's why people love sports.
Yep.
Right? It's that sense of community, especially in a world where it's hard to get that socialization in a way that's positive, and especially in the world of social media and all the different options you have. This is one place where people can get together and forget what's going on, forget whatever happens politically, and root and be part of something bigger than themselves. Yeah. And that's why I think sports works. That's why I think it interests people to invest in sports. It's a powerful community experience.
Awesome. I'll just say, let's go Mets.
I love that. Thank you, Mark. All right.
Thank you, Vince. Steve Cohen.